What is up, guys? How are you? Welcome back. It's your boy He-Bot. And today we're going to talk about some hot topics and the hypocrisy of the gaming media and PlayStation fanboys. That's right. All those that claim that they're not fanboys, but yet they're showing all their true colors as usual. You know, people like Dreamcast Guy, right? Or people like, Spawn Wave, or any of those characters that claim to be so-unquote real gamers. So, and the media itself, obviously. First thing I want to talk about, why is it that so many people are hyping up this so-called possibility of the PlayStation 5 Pro? Which it looks like it's a very possible thing. Now, why is the PlayStation Pro even an existing thing? Well, because the PS5 spec and hardware was not up to snuff in comparison to the Series X. It's not really future-proof the way the Series X is. So in order for it to continue to go on forward with this generation without having any real issues, obviously, it made sense for Sony, since they're having success with PS5 sales, to make a new hardware, upgrade it a little better so that it can last the rest of the generation, right? But that's because they want to, they invest in money and they don't have money to spare and to afford to lose in the way that, let's say, Microsoft does. Microsoft has money. If they lose money, if they don't gain money on something, they can recover it in other areas. But PlayStation can't, right? That's just the reality of the situation. That's not me trolling. That's not me saying something to be negative. It's just the truth. So it's funny to me how everybody's celebrating it like it's the biggest thing ever, when I remember clear as day when Microsoft announced it in the Xbox One generation that they were going to do the Xbox One X. All people kept saying was, how dare they, we don't buy consoles to have a next-gen refresh. Our consoles are supposed to last us. Our console is supposed to last us until, a console's supposed to last us at least 7 years. This is unacceptable. And then when Sony made theirs, then everybody kind of toned down the whole, we don't like this idea. But the reason why Microsoft did it was because they figured, well, people kept talking crap that the Xbox One was incapable because of the fact that it was harder to develop for. But it did have the dedicated ES RAM that most developers didn't want to use because they just wanted to do as least work as possible. And then they did the Slim, right, to kind of make it smaller and more compact. And they saw that it still wasn't enough, even though they allocated more resources for developers. But they got rid of the, the whole thing for UI for the Kinect, right? So they created the Series X, right? The Series One, the Xbox One X, because they just wanted to shut down the narrative with people and developers that they didn't have enough power or it was too complicated. And then what happened? When they did that, guess what? Developers weren't using it. They weren't taking advantage. They kept parroting everything with PlayStation 4. And even the PlayStation 4 Pro, because the PlayStation 4 Pro was not on the level of the Series Xbox, the Xbox One X. So ultimately, only Xbox was able to use it with their IPs and their developers and actually utilize the power that it was giving you, right? But the actual developers, only a few of them were the ones actually doing something and actually using it and doing upgrades and updates to their games, right? But it still was parity, right? They did not take the advantage of the hardware that was there because the PlayStation was the quote-unquote leading platform, right? So now we're in the future in the next generation, and now since the PS5 is the one that's not really working out the way it needs to, especially because it doesn't support real RDNA 2, and it doesn't support, the DirectX 12 Ultimate, for example, or HDR Dolby Vision, or HDR, Dolby Surround, right? Which actually play a part in future experiences for games. So now that, and the fact that it's only 9.8 teraflops as opposed to 12, and all those things, it's more, it's inferior to the Xbox Series X. But since it's still the leading platform in sales, the people do not want to, a lot of developers do not want to take advantage of that and try to act as if, oh, no, it's very capable, when we all know it's not, especially when you compare them to the Xbox games that are made by Xbox Studios for Xbox themselves. When you see the games, they show, because they're able to utilize and do things that other developers are claiming they can't. And then they want to blame something like the S when the S is downscalable. You can make any game there because it supports those things like DirectX 12 Ultimate, and it's real RDNA 2 in the hardware. It's just less teraflops, a little slower amount of memory processing, and obviously it has only 10 gigs of dedicated memory as opposed to usually the 16 that you would have otherwise. Now, that still does not mean that you can't create the games, because we're seeing it with Space Marine, we saw it with Hellblade 2, we saw it with Flight Simulator, we saw it with Halo Infinite, we saw it with Forza Horizon. All these games are in, probably more than likely the upcoming Gears E-Day. All these demanding games that are only next gen, using next gen tech, next gen graphic engines, and yet they somehow can run perfectly fine. Obviously downscaled on the S, but this is the excuse that most developers are trying to use. But now you see the celebration for the PS5 Pro. Like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. This is great. All of a sudden, there's no backlash. All of a sudden, there's no negativity. All of a sudden, it's, oh, we don't buy consoles to have a new one just 4 years later. It's only been 4 years. And 2 of those years, in reality, were a hiccup because of COVID. So the console only been striving really for 2.5 years. So they're still in their infancy, so to speak, because they haven't really been able to get to the meat and grind of those hardwares yet, because of the fact that COVID played a big part in making things get delayed and developers getting more familiar with the hardware set, right? That's just common logic that people don't want to use because it doesn't work for the narrative of PlayStation, right? Obviously. So now you see everybody celebrating. Now it's a good thing to have a mid-gen free cycle for a console when we didn't have something called COVID last generation. And it was done because, by Microsoft in particular, because they wanted to stop the narrative that there wasn't enough power or it wasn't friendly enough to perform, to develop for, to make games. They had a legitimate reason why they were trying to put this out in the market. Unlike Sony, that they were just doing this, try to stay, next to them and don't lose the power narrative so much so, and don't lose the perception that, oh, because people were wanting to jump ships, because a lot of people bought the series, the Xbox One X, right? The Xbox One X. And then they were disappointed because developers were just not using it. Okay? And those are the facts. Then you see this other hypocrisy now with Astrobot. That you see that these same people that are claiming that it's the greatest game of all time, media included, right? These same people did not go out and support other amazing platformers that are obviously actually even better than Astrobot, because they're not as simplistic. They're actually more complex and more, more high quality in that sense, right? With the gameplay mechanics and different styles of gameplay, right? Like It Takes Two, which won Game of the Year for a reason. But yet you didn't see many people speaking about it. But the real gamers went out and bought it because it sold very well. But as far as the media speaking and these, usual suspects, I didn't see Spawn Wave or no Dreamcast guy or any of these guys that are PlayStation centric like Porter Rock. None of them that everybody, you know, even Jess Gordon, for Christ's sakes, you didn't see them, hyping up, Kina or Recore or Lost in Random, Song of Nunu, right? Or It Takes Two, like I said, or not only It Takes Two, also games like Psychonauts 2. That was absolutely incredible, right? They tried to do it when it was Ratchet and Clank, yeah, because again, a PlayStation exclusive. But when it came to other games, right, like Ori was celebrated, but they were okay because it went to PlayStation and Nintendo. But before it did that, they really weren't talking and pushing it, unless you were on the Xbox side. Same thing with Cuphead, right? So you see clear as day it's an agenda. You see clear as day it's just a narrative, especially to wipe out what happened with Concord. Concord failed. It was $200 million, 8-year investment with the developers, and it all had to go down the toilet because, again, the game didn't do well. And then, since Astrobot just came out, and then John Lennon does this video like he always does, sucking on anything PlayStation, but yeah, he never even did one for It Takes Two, and he calls himself a platformer enthusiast, quote unquote, right? He never really did one for Psychonauts 2, right? The way that he claims that he loves all these platformers, right? He never did one for Song of Nunu, right? Lost in Random, never. But if it's PlayStation and Nintendo, he flies right away, immediately, and goes and does them. And so people believe his bullshit and his rhetoric because that's what he is. He's a bullshitter. And he's very biased. All he loves is anything Nintendo or PlayStation, predominantly PlayStation. The guy thinks he's Japanese, for Christ's sake, since he lived in Japan and learned the language. Like, that's not how that works. You can live in Japan, you can learn the language. That don't make you Japanese. That makes you whatever you are from wherever country you came, whether you're Australian, European, whatever. You're not Japanese. That's some sycophant stuff and mental way of thinking, right? So you never saw him celebrating, like I was trying to say before, any of those games. So he is a mentally, in my opinion, disturbed person. If you think you're Japanese and because you learned the language or lived there, you have a serious issue, because that's all he likes to celebrate mainly is Japanese style games or Japanese developed games. Just look at his pattern. Whenever we review something, it's him. It's always the Japanese stuff or particular specific things, right? He was the one who said that Harry Potter was too kiddish, and that's why he didn't bother with the Harry Potter game for Hogsworth. Yet, he wants to praise this Astrobot like it's the coming of Christ. Make it make sense. How do you do that and then expect people to take your opinions of something seriously when you're showing blatantly your hypocrisy and your fake approach? And you're supposed to be a professional that works for Digital Foundry, which we all know was founded by Eurogamer, which has associations with Sony. So, to continue, this big narrative, yet nobody cared about any of those games and talked about it. Oh, Metacritic 94, okay, good. That's because the same people that love to hate anything Xbox and love everything PlayStations are the ones doing these meta scores for Metacritic. It's the same people. They're going to give you the good scores. Media is and the user scores. They're not going to talk crap about the game. I bought the game. I played it. The game is nice. It's awesome. But it's not a 10 out of 10. It's not a 9.5. It's an 8. Because it's not doing anything new and groundbreaking. All it does is brings back all these things I've done, little innuendos here and there from other platformers, and interpreted it in their own way, with their own world in this game. It's basically a museum of celebrating things, all things PlayStation. So as a PlayStation game, maybe it's the best platformer for PlayStation, right? Or as a PlayStation, enthusiast, like somebody that's really hardcore PlayStation, that's all they're going to see through their eyes. Oh my God, this is incredible. But the reality is that there's been so many platformers that are absolutely incredible since the 2013 Xbox One generation started, that for you to say this is the greatest, platformer of all times, that even rivals Mario, or that is better than Mario or Sonic or other ones that have been around for 30, 40 years, whatever, it's because you are a hardcore fan of PlayStation, and that's all you see through your eyes. Because that shows that you've never played other platformers. Especially when you play Astrobot, you see the familiarities. The only difference is that the game uses all the functionalities that the controller offers, like the speaker, not so much the touchscreen, the speaker, the rumble, haptic feedback, things like that, or the little sounds and stuff that it does. But on top of that, keep in mind the caveat to that nobody's speaking of, which I found out real quick yesterday, was because it uses all those features on the controller dies really fast. So because the controller dies really fast, right, then you have to worry about charging it because it's using all the things. So that's kind of a very big negative that nobody's bringing up, right? Because it utilizes those features on the controller. So it's waste more battery. Just like it's freaking so hilarious how nobody used to say anything like when Xbox had games like Super Lucky Tales, Ori, Cuphead, right? And they were great, fantastic platformers, 2D and 3D. All the people kept saying was, hey, you know what? We don't buy consoles that are $500 to play kiddie games, like Sea of Thieves even though it's not a platform. I'm just including it because it was part of the conversation, right? Everybody kept saying, oh, we don't buy next-gen consoles to play little kiddie games, right? I have my Nintendo for that, or whatever it is, because at that point, since Microsoft was delivering all types of games, whether they were, old school style, like cartoon style, cel-shaded style, photorealistic, it didn't matter. They had all types of diverse type of games that they've been pushing the whole generation for Xbox One, right? That was the difference. That was the narrative, because it was on Microsoft. Oh, y'all don't have more realistic games. We don't have AAA style games. Y'all have just kiddie games. You see the hypocrisy? And yet, now is, amazing. Kiddie games are incredible. They're spectacular. They're the greatest thing ever. Oh my God, we have to get this is a PlayStation killer. This is a console seller. This is gonna be a super hit. All types of stuff you're hearing. Not only that, the funny thing is, on top of that too, that another red flag that nobody's trying to point out the way they should be is the game is literally supposedly, I haven't finished it yet, but it's supposedly about 6.5 hours, 6 hours. And nobody's deducting points at that, saying that the game is short. They're saying that it's perfect. The length is perfect. That is great. Yet when Super Lucky Tales, people try to say it was short, or Quantum Break, or Recore, or any of those other games that came out that were kind of on the shorter side, even though Quantum Break was a 10-hour game and that was perfectly fine. All you heard was, we can't score it higher because the game is just not long enough. The game, it feels too short, or it feels like you bought a tech demo. Really? These are the same dudes that went and bought out the Metal Gear Solid episode edition, epilogue edition, that was really literally 15 minutes long, and the Kojima charged everybody $40 for 15 minutes of game. The game you could be in 15 minutes, and he charged $40. Y'all forgot about that? And nobody cared. Motherfuckers went out and bought it, and it did well. And that's not hypocrisy? And I've been the one that's been saying for the longest time, and people around me as well, like E-Rock, Sega Forever, Sega Man, 100, Unlimited, Tuck. All the people around our circle have been saying for years that a good game is a good game. It doesn't matter if it's short, long, AAA, AA, single A, it does not matter. A good game is a good game. And that is the essence of video games in a nutshell, period. If it's longer, it's just the icing on top, right? Or the cherry on top, like they say, the saying. And that's not been the narrative that people said. All people try to push was, the game is too short. it's like buying a tech demo. And Astro bought it $60. Let me just let you know. It wasn't 70, but it was 60. When the real price that would probably be the best balancing price point for the game would have been maybe $40. And no, they didn't do that. It's the same thing like Knack when Knack came out. They tried to praise it like it was great when Knack was lackluster. It was not a great game. And that game was an indie game originally that they charged in full price for $60. That Mark Cerny himself talked about, and he's created himself. So the other hypocrisy is now it don't matter if it's short. It's a great game. That's all that matters. Now that narrative went right back because it plays in favor to PlayStation. And once again, like I said, these are the things that nobody calls out. But everybody wants to call out and make hundreds of videos or put up hundreds of articles talking shit about anything Xbox when half the time it's misinformed or false, right? And they completely miss the point if the game is good, if the game, it has good quality or it's fun, all those things. No, when it comes to Xbox, it's garbage, it's trash, it's unacceptable. But then this narrative, when it comes to PlayStation, is everything's acceptable because it's Sony. No, that's not how that works. And that's why I'll do videos talking about it, because I see nothing but negative Xbox, but then all these other people that are supposed to be real so-called gamers and pro Xbox, quote unquote, or that like Xbox, and they never do videos defending and pointing out the bullshit or the fallacies or the fake rhetoric. Unless I don't come out and do a video like this, or in other people like that guy Gamester, which even though people may not like him because of the way he talks, he says the truth. He calls people's bullshit out. He does what many people out here just don't do because you're either afraid or you want to be part of the bandwagon. And that's not how it's supposed to be. You're a gamer, you're supposed to be truthful and honest. Unless Unlimited does a video, or Sega Man, or E-Rock, or anybody like 100, any of us that have been doing this, right? Like NWO Prime used to do, right? Or even, Sega Forever, the new Legal. Whenever we do videos that are positive Xbox, all of a sudden it's, we're delusional, we're crazy, we're Xbox shills, we suck Xbox ball sack, we suck Phil Spencer's nut sack, and so forth and so forth. A bunch of stupid, ignorant things. Even though when we do the video, we do it showing the proof, or pointing you in the direction to the truth that you could look up and see for yourself. And yet, y'all don't want to hear that. Real leaders don't follow. And if you're just buying PlayStation and Nintendo because it's the popular thing, then you're not a leader, you're a follower. So how does that make the Xbox community or the Xbox gamers that are pro Xbox and love Xbox for what they do and what they provide, how does that make us the shills? I really would love to know that. We never celebrated having an Xbox One X. We accepted it, embraced it. Oh, great. So now there's no more excuse for developers to say we can't use no power. It's not enough power. It's too complicated to develop for, because they gave you the assets, right? And the equipment to fix that. It was you guys who chose not to do it, to cater to PlayStation, right? But yet, we're the shills. We didn't celebrate that. When we had the Xbox One X, we didn't care about resolution. All we said is these games are fantastic, like Dead Rising, Titanfall, like Rise, Son of Rome, and Killer Instincts. We were playing the games and enjoying them. We didn't care that they were 900p dynamic resolution, 720p, because most of them were 30, but a lot of them also were 900p 60, right? We didn't compare about that. No, that's when Digital Foundry, that generation, decided to talk and do all types of videos, because they saw that the advantage was on PlayStation side with the perception and false narratives. And though they decided we're gonna open our mouth and make a channel on YouTube and do this and do that and do podcasts, and they changed their whole structure during the 360 when everything was positive 360 that it blew out everything PlayStation ever had. Guess what? Digital Foundry, right? All they did in Digital Foundry was talk. Didn't talk. They just showed the videos, showed you the side by side, and let you determine what you thought was better or not by showing you the graphs of the frame rate or resolution. But they never talked during the whole 360 gen, right? It started with the Xbox One when the bullshit started that everybody was sucking on PS4's ball sacks over some dumb shit that never happened because PlayStation was going to do the exact same thing. They were going to pack in the goddamn camera, and they were going to charge the same exact price. And they were even thinking about doing DRM for that console because they already had done it with the PS3. So again, it was all bullcrap. Microsoft tried to be transparent and be honest and told people, look, straight up, we want to fix this. We want to make up for any, feelings you might feel of distrust and things of that nature. So like I was trying to tell you guys, sorry for the interruption, it was that Microsoft tried whatever they could and did whatever they could to gain back your trust as a consumer, even though the DRM never went through. They tried to fix everything by doing other things, like when people were saying, oh, that it has a big brick, that the console looks like a VCR, when the brick, and the reason why they did it like that was because of the red rings of death situation had with the 360. That was to avoid any of those things from happening again with the Xbox One console by protecting it with the power surge brick, right? Which that was the reason why they did it. And yet all the people did was make fun of them, saying, well, they made fun of them by saying, oh, you don't even know what the settings are, when all you had to do was say, Xbox, go to settings with the Kinect. It was that simple. Because the console was unified. It was built and meant to work with the Kinect, unified as one, ecosystem. And people did not want to understand that and took it the wrong way. They're spying on us. They're trying to give information to the U.S. government. Like the U.S. government really cares what us gamers are doing when we're playing, whether we're eating Cheetos or scratching our balls. No, they don't care about that. That was ridiculous. It was so stupid. And yet, that was the narrative. Again. So, I don't know about you guys, but I get sick and tired of seeing hypocrisy. I get sick and tired of seeing people roll with these narratives and then act like, oh no, that's not what happened, or try to brush it to the side or brush it under the rug, when that's exactly what's been going on the entire time. And because I don't like hypocrisy is why I try to do videos like this to call it out. Okay? Again, like I said, I bought Astro. I supported it. I'm playing it. I'm going to more likely try to beat it as well. Okay? So you can't tell me, oh, I didn't play it. You're just a hater. No, because I bought Kina as well on Xbox. I bought Psychonauts 2 on Xbox. I bought Ori. I bought Cuphead. I bought No Straight Roads. I bought It Takes Two. I bought Lost in Random. I bought Song of Nunu. I bought all the great platformers that came out. Because I'm a gamer and I love platformers the same way my favorite genre is beat 'em ups. So if you want to question me, you can question me all you want. I got my receipts. I got my proof. I know what I'm talking about and I know what I'm doing. There's no need for me to lie. But the hypocrisy has to be called out. And more of you guys out there that supposedly are good, real Xbox fans, you should do it too. Because the bottom line is, if they can talk all types of stuff about Xbox gamers, and say all types of false and fake information, then how does that make any difference with us as Xbox fans trying to prove them wrong with the reality and the real information, and counter-arguing whatever they're trying to imply or say that's not true. How does that make it any difference? Why don't we have the right to do that? Of course we do. It's just up to you to put forth your foot and effort to actually do it. It's not about arguing. It's not about console warring. It's about the reality, the bullshit. Console warring is one thing, but there's also console warring in the sense of calling out the BS, the fake narratives, the lies, the false perceptions and misinterpretations, and you know what I mean, of one company versus the other. And in this case, it's always been with Xbox. So I don't understand how a mid-gen cycle is cool now. I don't understand how kid games are cool now. I don't understand how short games are cool now. And I don't understand how how all of a sudden a genre that's been around for many, many years and had great games since the 2023 and before that with Xbox One and PS4, all of a sudden this particular game is the greatest thing since sliced bread. When it basically holds your hand, because you can literally buy a little birdie and you go back to the level and you pay some coins, which you get a lot of coins to begin with, and he'll tell you exactly where every single secret in the game is. And what you do in the game is basically collect the bots, because you're trying to rebuild the PlayStation console, which is a PlayStation ship, a mothership, and trying to regain all the people that were with you in the ship that happen to be the bots. And then you collect these puzzles, chips, these puzzle that look like puzzle pieces, to unlock artwork from the game. And it essentially also gives you the ability to unlock these vending machines to buy these special equipment or accessories that go with the bots from different themes of different games from the past that were on PlayStation consoles. Not necessarily that they own, but that were on the PlayStation console. Right? Like Crash or like Castlevania, for example. That's all you do in the game. Meanwhile you're fighting, these little creatures get there and using the world to get around, with certain powers. Like you get powers to have these special gloves to break through certain things or stick to certain things and be able to pull certain things, or these special flowers that make you go up even higher if you need to get to a higher place. Things like that. It's a good platformer. Absolutely. I give it an 8. Solid 8. Very good platformer. It also have different gameplay mechanics. It has different, perks and abilities that you can do, but not different gameplay mechanics. You don't fly and have a level on that controller that looks like a ship and do a scene where you're doing platforming and fighting in that controller. It's just when you come in the intro of every level, you can move it left and right, and that's it. You can't even move it up and down, front or back, just left and right until it lands and you're in the level once you land. You know what I mean? You don't have top-down moments, side-scrolling moments, flying moments on a vehicle. You don't have that type of moments like other games back in the past, like a Jackson Daxter on PlayStation, by the way. For example, it doesn't give you that type of diversity. It's just you move around the world and you do clever things with the power-ups they give you to unlock and do things within the world. Abilities and special artifacts that you can use. But that's it. It's not something that's breaking grounds and doing something that you've never seen before. Like I said, not knocking the game. It's a good game. But it's not the best platformer. It's not a masterpiece. It's not a 10 out of 10. Maybe for somebody that don't play them and only plays PlayStation, maybe. But a person that's actually been playing games and all types of genres as long as I have, no. You'll be able to catch these things really easy. So, guys, let me know what you think down the bottom. I'm very tired. Forgive me. That's why I look so kind of busted. And forgive me for that. But, I'd like to see what you guys think. It'd be interesting. Leave it down in the comments below. Give a thumbs up if you liked the video. Give a thumbs down if you didn't. Let me know what you guys think. Share the video with someone you think might like it. As always, for all of you that continue to support me, thank you. Because like I always say, without you guys, I couldn't contain and sustain the channel going forward or at any point, right? You can find me on any social media outlets. You guys can DM me at any of those social media outlets if you're going to talk about anything, donate something to the channel, or whatever it is. I'm not rude. You know, I'm very outspoken, outgoing. You can reach out. It's perfectly fine. So, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Enjoy gaming. Xbox for life, like a sickness that can't be cured. That's my saying. That's my slogan. Don't get triggered, people. It's just gaming. It's all in good fun. Peace out, guys. Love you. Until next one. Bye.